You are now listening to Season 3, Episode 3 of Terminal 234. On this special Valentine's Day episode, we have two special guests with us, and we talk all things love, dating, and relationships. Would you travel for love? Would you get somebody a gift for Valentine's Day? These are questions we answer, and much more. So, in the name of Valentine's Day, guys, we have brought two lovely guests with us today, or we've added two guests to the podcast today. Yes. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Ladies first.
I'm Muftia or Korede. That's it.
That's it. Why are you doing it?
I'm obviously not meant for the camera.
Okay. Welcome to the show. All right, go ahead, sir.
You
can talk now.
Hi, guys. My name is Emeka. You can call me G-Max. You can call me Dolapo. You can call me
G-Max.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, all right, let's see. So this lady was a leasing agent. Right? I called to lease our property. Very professional guy. I guess I sounded
available.
Sounded nice on the phone. So, she found a way to find my resume online and took my number and gave me a call. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, this is different. I don't mind it, actually. But we talked for a little bit, Yeah.
Small. It wasn't anything intense.
Yeah, it was nothing intense. I mean, she... Okay, I can't give you guys too many.
Yeah, it's okay. That's why she's not listening to this. Lisa, the leasing agent. You can call her Lisa.
Yeah, you can call her Lisa.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it was very fluid. I think she maybe is starting to feel something that may indicate that it might go somewhere.
But it's literally been a week.
Baba, it's been a week for me. I'm just chilling.
Okay, so that's what it is. That's where the disconnect is. You get what I'm saying? It's like sometimes for people, like if they're really feeling the situation, they assume the other person is feeling it too. And with that, they expect similar acts that they might do themselves. So maybe she's intending on giving you a card and that's why she put it out there.
I promise you she's not. Girls don't give Valentine's Day gifts.
First of all, yes they do.
So,
girls hold back. They do the bare minimum.
No, that's not true.
I think that's not correct.
It's only when you're not in a relationship.
Yeah,
I feel like in a relationship,
girls
in a good relationship, girlfriends want to give for
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, my friend is sending bear flowers, balloons, all this weird
so
stuff.
are you talking
I have a question.
personal
That's a
experience?
valid point, though.
Your friend that's sending bear, who's she sending it for?
Her boyfriend.
Does her boyfriend want a bear?
I
know
her boyfriend like that.
So my point is, why are we even kind of I don't want a bear or a balloon. You're doing that so you could put it you said that, not that the person doesn't want that. What's he gonna do with a bear? Cuddle with the bear?
The thought that counts.
Okay, but back to the question though, how.
I don't expect to receive anything as far as how soon. I think if you feel it depends on how big the gift, what the gift is. Yeah. For example, a card. A week, I probably wouldn't think of giving the person a card. If they ask for a card, I might just give it to them. Okay, take a card. It's a card. But I don't, I'm not getting you something that's expensive or not together.
So
you know what I mean?
For me, it's not even an issue of cost. It's more so, it's...
expectations.
Yeah, and it's more so the value of Valentine's. You don't want to just do very platonic kind of type gestures. The whole premise of it all is to, I guess, use that day to commemorate
so you have you have a little reverence for Valentine's Day.
Exactly. So you don't just
I guess I don't have any reverence for Valentine's Day.
I want to hear more about that. Because I feel usually you hear that guys aren't really into the whole idea of Valentine's Day. They think it's kind of just this capitalistic holiday that's designed for women to get shit out of men. We hear that all the time.
Yeah.
So that's a different take from a guy.
Exactly.
But you value Valentine's Day?
Absolutely, and that's why it has to be that way, because otherwise we would just be sending cards to everybody.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
I feel even if you don't really think if you think Valentine's Day is still a capitalistic thing, it's still a day that means love, that's what it represents.
Right.
So you don't want to give someone the wrong impression.
Exactly.
If you don't have those feelings for them, you don't want to just be well, it's just a cat. You don't want to be sending mixed signals.
You're good point. And also on that note, you also don't want to send mixed signals you are in love with this person, but then you do nothing to acknowledge it. It's like, oh, well, damn, like, it's Valentine's Day. I'm supposed to be feeling a little bit special today, and you're not doing anything. Like, do you actually really like me, love me, whatever it is? So I can see why people kind of partake in it regardless of what the backstory is of it all.
I mean, I understand it.
You sound like you have a different take, though. Like,
I understand it. I just think that, kind of going back to what you said, the whole premise of how Valentine's Day started is not like so much about love. And of course, there's nothing wrong with showing your love. Like, I'm not against it, but I don't think it's as big a deal as like people make it. Specifically, like a lot of women make it. Like, it's just a day. It's not that. I mean, you can make it as special as you want to. But it's not a national holiday. Why are you?
I
know. I was about to say. Speaking of though, I was literally about to say. Speaking of Valentine's Day, though, it's coming, or actually just passed. So with you, Dolapo, what did you do for Valentine's Day?
Oh, guys, if you're listening to this, I'm probably on my way back from Barbados. I went to go visit my girlfriend. But that's not the point. It's about expectations.
You literally just dropped some points on a ticket to Barbados, and it's nothing about that.
Maybe that's why I have a beef for Valentine's Day, is that I don't want to have to like spend so much just because of Valentine's Day. But that's not the reason why I'm going.
Okay.
It's just a good enough excuse to go. To me, anyway.
Okay.
Like, I don't think like I don't have to. To me, I don't think I have to go because of Valentine's Day. Like, it's, I don't know what's special about it, but it's Valentine's Day.
Right. I mean, to wrap up this question, because I think we've kind of
we've killed
it. I want to know like a quick this or that. Are you guys more into like grand gestures for Valentine's Day or like small cute gestures? What do you guys think?
I like anything like thoughtful. I mean, I'll appreciate a grand gesture, but I get really like anxious with surprises and stuff. But like card and flowers, I'm like, wow, like that's just so. I know people are like, oh, they probably didn't even put that much thought into it, but I perceive it as you put thought into it, and that's all that matters.
To me, time equals thought. So if you took the time to do something, that's very thoughtful. How about you, Dolapo?
Yeah, I think I don't need a grand gesture. I mean, I don't care that much about it, so whatever you give me, I mean, as long as you put thought into it, kind of like what Korede is saying. Yeah. Like, if you give me a card, I mean, I appreciate it. It depends on what, like, if you give me a card and you write nothing in it, like, that's zero effort. To me, that's zero effort. Like, okay, like, thank you. You got me something, but I wouldn't be, like, hurt regardless because I don't expect anything because I don't revere the holiday that much or the day that much.
True. Okay. And you?
I think it depends on the person, actually. So for some people, you might do something larger, and then for others, you might do something more like thoughtful.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point. Because some people are just not into like, gifts. Like, that's not their hugest love language. So for them, you know, they might not need the grand gesture. So for you, though, like you receiving,
what do you want to get?
Oh, me, I don't like gifts. I'm like,
okay.
Anything.
So if they give you a gift, you'll give it back. No. Like, let's be clear.
That's so funny, actually.
So you take it, but you're not. You don't need a gift to feel any kind of way.
Yeah,
that's kind of the.
Okay. Yeah, we see it.
Okay.
Okay. What's the next question, Miss Producer?
How far would you travel for love?
I think Dolapo already answered that question, though.
Guys, everything is not going to start with me. First of all, that's
he would travel to an island. How long is that?
Okay, all right. But yeah, no. You guys should have the conversation amongst yourselves.
Okay.
Because I'm in the situation, right? But of course, we always know like long distance relationship is like a huge thing in terms of it's a huge thing to decide like do you want to be in a relationship. For some people, I would think.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about the prospects of getting into a long distance relationship, like knowing beforehand? Like my situation, it wasn't supposed to be long distance, so that's like a little different. But like now being single, if you're to meet someone and you know like this person is not from around here, they're going back to where they're from, would that be like an automatic no, let's just not get into it? Like what are your feelings? Faye, why don't you kick us off since you're asking questions?
Okay, fine. I'm not the person that has very many deal breakers personally. Like it just takes a lot for me to be like absolutely not before getting to know somebody, you know what I mean? Like I kind of feel like if the circumstance dictates itself to be a long distance relationship and I really like the person, I'm feeling the person a lot, I think I will deal with it. I'm a person too who like I believe in the whole notion of distance makes the heart grow fonder. I don't know if that's for the better or for the worse, but like I definitely am not somebody that needs to. I know, right? I'm definitely not. I'm not the person that needs to be around whoever my partner is all the time. You know, I do appreciate time and distance apart. So I don't think it's a deal breaker for me at all.
And I definitely think it's value in that. First of all, before they tell you how much there's no value, there's definitely value in being apart and not being around each other every day as much as you possibly could. Yeah. But there is, I think,
there's a limit for sure.
Of when it becomes now it's starting to be hurtful.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's a limit with regards to distance or time spent?
Time spent. I think of distance in terms of time spent. Because someone could be in Nigeria, which we would say is really far. But if you go to Nigeria every weekend, I mean, not realistic, but then it's not long a distance. So it's really, to me, it's more about time. Yeah. It's about how much time are you away from each other on a regular, time between intervals, stuff like that.
Some people think distance is the better guide of whether or not.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Because people are like, okay, if it's like Pennsylvania, the person is at, then that's fine.
I think that's why I said it goes back to time, but ultimately it's the same. To me, I think it's the same thing because the distance will determine how much time we get to spend together. So if someone is in, I don't know, like you said, Pennsylvania, I can drive up to Pennsylvania. Someone in California, I have to catch a flight. So someone that's in Pennsylvania, I think of them as they're literally closer, and financially, everything else, I can spend more time with them because I can literally, every weekend, if I wanted to, I could drive up. California, I'm probably not flying up to California. So I think it's just how you think of it, but it's the same thing ultimately.
In my use of that phrase, I was conflating time and distance. Like, because there's distance, there's gonna have to be some time between us seeing each other. And with that said, like, I can appreciate that distance in a lot of cases. Like, I'm not like so opposed to it.
But do you have like a limit on how far?
No, not per se, but like I would even say like living in Maryland, DC is kind of a trek sometimes, right? So like let's say somebody lives guys, hold on, let me say it like this. Let me say
it wants time.
Listen.
Maryland, oh my god.
Guys, but listen. I'm saying to some, let me finish my sentence. To some, that's like such a distance that they might not even be able to make that work because maybe they're the type who likes to catch lunch with their partner every other day, right? And being in DC, that can't happen. So like for some people, DC is even a distance. To me, that's nothing. Like if it means I only see you once a week at some points, at some stretches, that's totally fine to me. You know what I mean? Where it gets a little bit trickier is, like you said, like cross-country relationships where I might only see you 4 times that year. Again, though, I do know myself to be somebody that is pretty malleable and can kind of work with many different circumstances. So I think I can make it work, but it's not ideal for me. If that answered your question. I don't even remember the question anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
So for me, I can't really do long distance. I've tried it before. It's a very shambolic experience, to be honest.
I like that word, bro. I love the word choices this guy uses.
It's a whole thing, man. But I think the issue with long distance relationships is then trust starts to become an issue, you know. So, so then people start to think, even though you're a very innocent guy, I guess maybe you go out often, people start to think, you know,
you're in the streets, but you're not really in the streets.
You're definitely not in the streets. And so I think certain things start to kick in. You start to get a bit more like anxious. You know, it's like, what's he doing right now? But
let me ask a question. Do you think it's one way? Like, when you were in that relationship, did you feel like, did you have those kinds of feelings, or it was like just totally in your direction, you were getting that kind of feeling?
Yeah, actually, it was more so one way. I mean, for me, I had to move, so it's not like,
right.
Yeah, so I moved from Philly to DC to work. And so, I mean, by default, I'm not just going to sit at home every day.
Of course, no.
So I have to be out, especially because I know guys here. You know, But I guess the other person is very, like, the person always wanted me in their space. So me not being
clingy.
in their space, exactly.
So do you think it's a matter of distance is not for you, or distance with a specific type of person is not for you?
No, I've come to learn, that's a very good point. But I've come to learn that in general, it's just not practical, guys, if you think about it. Especially, well, I guess it also depends on the time. Like you see how long you guys were dating prior to the move. For me, it was like 1 and 2 months. You know? It was still kind of early.
And so I think you had to have the chance to maybe build a level of trust that would sustain that kind of pressure.
So I guess 1 year into a relationship with somebody, or maybe something past 1 year, you can
whatever it takes for
the couple,
exactly.
But you would never maybe start a relationship long distance.
No chance.
You're not sliding into any DMs.
What's long distance for you? Is Pennsylvania long distance right now?
PA was long distance for me because every weekend you have to come into a.
Well, I guess you did just say that. Yeah, you just said that. Yeah. Okay. So if you're not in the DMV area, don't even shoot your shot at them. It's like
DC.
Oh shit!
Oh, yeah, doing
he
DC
said DC, so you agreed with
you
agreed with my point. Wow.
If your zip code is not 2000 something.
Guys,
damn.
These are lies being told on camera.
No, I'm inclined to believe him though. He was saying this. You need a zip code. He did have a zip code. That's how you know it's real.
I can do Silver Springs.
It's like 30 minutes or less. That's it. That's all.
That's
Got you.
Korede, how about you? You're being quiet over here.
I feel like, yeah, I kind of in the same boat. I can see it if I was in a relationship and then I ended up becoming long distance because of circumstances following through. I think in terms of starting a relationship long distance, I'm not like opposed to it, except I kind of have a rule of like time zones. Like if we're not in the same time zone, I just feel like that's too far.
Why?
That's a good one.
Why?
Because I think about how far the distance is once you start crossing over into other time zones.
I'm the kind of person, central, like an hour behind.
No, that's why I asked why, because it seems like an arbitrary way to...
but
it's like Japan versus Nigeria.
No, but even...
But she just said time zone.
Yeah,
she didn't
because if
say
it's somewhere in a
specific
different time zone, I'm probably going to have to catch a flight to see you. And I'm the kind of person who wants to see someone...
Oh, okay.
If I can't see them
that's
every
a good
week,
way of putting it.
Yeah, if I can't see them every week, I would want to be able to see them like twice a month. And I'm not... Catching a flight
twice a month.
Yeah. Like,
So like, I want to be able to call them after work.
No, but also that I would think about that. Like, I mean, when it's a lower time zone, it's not as extreme. But like,
that's why
if I'm on the East Coast and you're on the West Coast, that's a lot. Tricky, and then once you start going to other countries,
so to answer the question for you, if you have to catch a plane, you're not falling in love. You're not catching a plane for love.
If it's a cheap flight.
No. You just said it. You're not catching a plane for love. You have to be able to drive.
It has to be an affordable. But if it's like if I met someone who was like in Atlanta round trip flights aren't that pricey. So
that's
I could catch.
So that means you would.
So you lied.
I would catch. She lied, guys. She lied.
Oh, technical issue here.
Oh god. Nah, it's okay. Just Sorry for the sound, guys. Maybe I should turn it down. Man, I'm a whole engineer.
Or just, edit this part out.
No. They have to know what goes into the hot dog, like they say.
The sausage.
I guess that's...
So you might go to listen to this whole thing.
Yeah.
No, I guess I would say it's more terms. I think of like the financial, like I think of it all encompassing. So it's like, oh, I may really like you, but I have to think about, okay, how much money am I willing to spend seeing you? So it's like, I would say I wouldn't catch a flight because I'm thinking about a flight to LA where I know it's expensive, or a flight to the West Coast in general that's expensive. But like a flight from here to Boston round trip, you can find like $70. Like I'm willing to commit that if I
every single month.
Yes.
So you're way more flexible than you try to let on.
Yeah, I think she started off this whole thing. You started off
I think the only negative thing the only negative thing with a long distance relationship is like I'm also thinking about if you start off a long distance relationship, you always have to think about so we're working towards us not being long distance, and that means something has to give. So it's like who's willing to make that move and who's willing to make that sacrifice. And that's hard when you just
is that a sacrifice you think that you wouldn't want to ever, like, let me not say ever, but you wouldn't want to, like, do you consider yourself now, like, to be, I have planted roots, I don't want to move anywhere right now, like, don't want to disturb me?
No, I'm not planted here, but I'm very selective of the other places in the country I'd be willing to.
So you're getting back to Atlanta, Boston.
But Dolapo, to flip it a little bit, we know you would do a long distance relationship, but would you ever start a relationship like that?
I think that would be hard. I kind of agree with everything you guys are saying, but I think I'd be willing to try. I think I'd consider all those things you just said, like, well, how far is it, and ultimately, how long is it going to be long distance? Yeah. Right? Because it could be long distance, and it could be like, oh, like, you're going to move here, or like, you might be able to move here, like, you're open to it, like, how open are you to move into me, or some kind of, like, arrangement like that. But of course it makes it difficult, just like you said, the trust isn't there yet at the start, so it makes it like just that much harder. Right. So I think that I would be willing to try it. I probably wouldn't be so optimistic. I'd kind of be like, hey, like this might not really work out longer than, but then when you start thinking like that, then other things happen.
I mean, okay, to me, to close out this question, me and you would maybe answer a DM from someone in New Jersey. These two are curving that person.
No, I'd answer a DM from New Jersey. New Jersey doesn't drive.
She said she would go to Boston.
It's a drive.
Okay. Sorry, I was still thinking back to your original answer. Yeah. Chicago.
Yeah, if they're from Chicago, then I have to really start, like, how great are you?
Shoot your shots.
So, Emeka's the only one that's like a staunch.
So you're going to say, you're not going to respond?
What?
I'm asking. We just want to be clear, so they know not to even waste their time.
Don't waste your time, ladies listening. Just forget it.
Just move to the
Silver Spring or closer.
To DCU. Otherwise, don't slide out.
All right, producer. Question number 3.
So, when and how do you decide when to move on from the talking stage into a relationship or into nothing?
The question is, when and how do you decide to move from the talking stage of relationship to like an actual relationship, being together, or deciding that we don't need to be together, let's go our separate ways? So what's that inflection or decision point? How do you know that you're there? How do you get there?
Let's let our guests answer first.
Man.
Yeah, go ahead, Korede. This is for you.
Nah, I feel like in the past I've been guilty of ending things too quickly. We'll be dating and then I'm just kind of like, do I really see a future? Then I'm like, 1 month later, I'm like, yeah, I just don't really think that this is worth anything. And it's not really, I can't say it's like a pinpoint thing. I guess it's a combination of a feeling. Like you're like, oh, am I like developing feelings for this person? And then I also try to think of like, do they have traits that I would be willing to invest in like a future? Because I always think about things for like long term. Like, is this someone who could potentially be
your
like
husband?
But it's like, I'm not trying to get married now, but it's like you have to think like, exactly. Like that's the kind of, I don't just think, oh, we're having a good time now. Like, oh, let's just keep, because then I've done that before, and then you end up in a year long unsure of what's happening, and you're not going to marry the person, but you're also
having
like,
a good time.
Yeah, but you're also like, oh, but I have feelings for them, but I also know this isn't going anywhere. So you're just kind of like, well, I don't know where this is going. So
about a month, you're saying? Like, how long?
How long? I mean, I feel like it changes from person, because some relationships move slow. I think now I'm trying to be more like slow paced in terms of giving people more chances. I would say like after 3 months, if I'm not really feeling it, or if I feel uncertain, I would be like, maybe this isn't the right thing, and I'd move on. Like I give it now like a 3 month.
What if the person is somebody that you're into, but you're not sure how they feel about you? Does that also determine like if you're ending it or not, or do you still give it a shot?
If they think that they're just slower to like build that, and they're reassuring me that they think that they can get there, then I'd be willing to give it like
prolong it
a little longer.
I don't like the way that sounds.
That's why I was
if they think they're willing to, like, I think it almost sounds like it might be it, like, I don't think that I don't think it should be a hard like window.
Yeah.
Every situation is different. I don't even think you should put a time on it. Like, I don't think you should put like a 1 month, 3 month, whatever. It depends on your vibe. It depends on how things are going. Yeah. I think that you should be serious if you are like willing to be serious. Like, you should know that, okay, I want to be serious. But I think if you put a time on it, it puts unnecessary pressure on both of you and on the situation. I think that you get to a point, you will know when you get to that point of like, okay, I think that I'm ready for something more serious. And then you can have that kind of conversation. Okay,
but how would you manage a situation where, like kind of what Faye was saying, like, so let's say you are really into someone and they're not necessarily not into you, but like they're maybe not as into you as you are yet. Like, would you still wait for it to fly? Like, you just know, like, you know so quick, and you're like into it.
If I somehow know that this person is not as into me as I am into them, then I'm gonna take a step back. Well, because what am I pushing for?
Before you continue on that note, if you do want to continue on that note, the main reason I asked Korede that question is because it's all fine and dandy to know what you want, but a lot of the time situationships are dictated by the person that's less into it. Honestly, I feel like it ends up being prolonged based on somebody being okay with kind of just waiting on that person to decide how they feel about it. So, like, the reason I asked Korede that question is because she already knows, like, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, nothing is perfect. There's no perfect science to this. But in about 3 months, I know if I'm into somebody or not and if I want to continue this. But in those circumstances, you only really end it because you're the person who's less into it and you're kind of over it. If you're the person who's more into it, a lot of times you'll give a lot of leeways. You'll extend that time zone or that time period. You'll extend time zones as well. You'll like move.
I think that kind of goes to what Dolapo was saying though, because like I think the other person may think that you are like as into it. So like you're saying, like from my perspective, like I've already checked out and been like, oh, I don't see this going. But like the other person, since I haven't said anything previously, from their perspective, they're like, oh, you're just as into it. Like they may not feel like they're extending a time frame. They're like, oh, we're just moving forward. Like we're just going.
Okay. I guess for me, I in my head, I'm always, or I try to be, or I think I am, whatever, aware of where both parties stand. And you can usually, I feel like if you really think about it in your heart of hearts, you can usually gauge how you're feeling versus how the other person
definitely.
is feeling.
I feel like that's what's happened with me a lot of times is like I've realized they're a lot more into me and I'm not there, and I kind of take that as a sign of like maybe this isn't the right thing, and then I'm like,
I think Emeka's itching to
say
something.
You sound like you're soul crusher, man. Shutting people down or something. That's crazy. No, but for me, I guess like, and it begs the question, right? Is love at first sight like a thing? Because I met this one girl, right, who met a guy. And that same night she came to me and told me, like, look, that guy's going to be my husband one day. And lo and behold, he actually got married. So in that very moment, she knew that, look, this is the person for me. You know? And so you tell me whether or not a day after that would have been a fair time to start a relationship, or 2 days after, if she already knew what the end was going to be like anyways. So as far as when, for me, Sha, for me, it's when you feel right about it, irrespective of how the other person feels. Yeah. So,
okay.
Typically speaking, like, yeah, if you're not vibing with me, I don't really care. If I'm vibing with you, I'll ask you when I feel like the time has come for me to ask you.
Okay. Yeah, so I like that.
I don't want to take your emotions into, like, you know, like, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to express it and then tell you what I'm planning on doing. And then you can tell me, how about we do this another time, or, you know, but it's whenever it feels right to me that I'm going to ask. And so.
But I think Korede answered the question as truthfully as she could in that moment, in the sense that she would probably prolong it if the person was looking like they're slower to. And I think a lot of people do that. Like, I know what Dolapo, you were saying, Emeka, like in the sense that when I'm ready to be out is when I'm out, but that's not how it always works.
Maybe I think what I'm thinking more about is the fact that, like, I'm thinking of it as like you go to someone like, yo, I'm ready to be in a relationship. Like, we've been talking for months or whatever. Like, I might take this to the next level. I'm not thinking about it as one conversation also. Maybe we should also make that clear. Okay. I'm thinking about it as like, let's just call it a series of conversations. Because it might just be like, yo, I think we should, like, what are we doing? Like, let's get more serious. And the person's like, oh, yeah. Like, but then, you know, like, you just have like preliminary talks. Like, that could be a series of talks. But you have to get to a point where, like, okay, like, I'm ready. You can't tell me, like, oh, let's just keep, like, yes, you can want to just keep talking, but if I am ready and you're not ready, I'll probably take a step. Naturally, I'm going to take a step back. So then that's going to make you, like, have to decide, okay, you're going to take a step closer to me, or are you going to, like, are you fine where it is? Because, like you're saying, if you're going to just keep prolonging and saying, okay, like, yeah, all right, I'll wait around a little bit longer. Let's see when you change. Like, I already know how I feel. Right. And, of course, we feel things differently, but I need you to speed up a little bit. Like, what's good? Because then now I'm going to feel like I care so much and you don't care that much. And that's, the dynamic is off for me anyway. I feel you.
Although I think a lot of the time that conversation is actually not even premeditated, you know. So no, it's like you take that party to, like, you know, that person that you're talking to like an event, you know, where your friends are, and then you have to introduce that person to your friends that day, and then it's like, okay, hey guys, this is my girl, and then after that, you guys have the conversation. Oh, I didn't even know I was your girl. I'm your girl now. Yeah, exactly. So I don't think the conversation is actually had as often as it should be had. Yeah. Regardless, I think.
All right, so we're ready for the next question.
So, based on your last conversation about being ready, when do you feel like you're ready for a relationship, then the marriage, and how do you look at marriage? Is it more about the contract part, the legal part, the religious part? What exactly?
So I feel like this is a multiple pronged question.
Yeah, this is like 10 questions.
So let's start with, okay, we've now established that all of us at some point will decide through a talktationship this should be moving to relationship or should be moving away from it. Right? So let's assume everything's good. Now we're in the relationship phase, right? Like, firstly, I think Mary wants to know, like, when are you, like, actually ready for that in this time of your life? And what does that come with? Like, does that come with, like, a definite marriage, like, down the line? You know what I mean? Or is it just relationships for the sake of having relationships right now?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Korede.
Jump in there. I'd be the one to
start this time because Korede started last time. Yeah. Let's give her a break.
I was going to say this one might be difficult for Dolapo, but it's fine.
Well, it's difficult for me. It's not difficult at all. Okay. I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay. All right. For me right now, because I'm not really... I have a couple things that I'm working on, and so for this reason, I don't think I have the capacity, time-wise, to dedicate myself to.
And that is what we call
But in the event that I got into a relationship right now, I would likely be more progressive towards a marriage, less so just for the fun of relationships and just seeing how things are with me and somebody. Like, I think I would actually pursue an end goal in this case, that is marriage. I can't say the same if I was like 22 or 23, you know what I mean?
But people don't just find themselves in relationships, Emeka. So how would you just like stumble? Are you saying like most of the situations?
I think he's saying that he's not trying to get into a relationship because he's not trying to get married. Like,
and then he said, but if he was to end up in da-da-da, he would.
So if you find someone,
so it's one of those things. Yeah. So right now I'm not like actively looking, but you run into people that are very special. Like, once in a while, when you run into that special somebody,
what you were when
you give some special somebody a Valentine's Day card and then start something new.
No, it's just tension. But no. So I'm open to it, but you have to be open to like a relationship first and foremost.
Definitely.
Which I am, but I'm not pursuing it. You know what I mean? So you can actively want something, but not pursue it. You know? I want to be a billionaire, but I'm not actively trying to just wake up and hustle to make those billions. I'm just trying to.
People would say there's something wrong with that, though. Where you just put that.
No, I'm trying to pursue knowledge.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. But you get what I'm saying? Like,
I understand what you're saying.
But long story short, as far as, and I think the last part of her question was marriage. Then should marriage be contractual? And in my opinion, my definition of contractual is more so from a time standpoint, less so like legality with prenups and so on. It's more so like I think marriages people should be allowed to choose a time frame that they want to experience the marriage for. So you shouldn't be in it for the rest of your life because it's something that you have now decided to do. I think you should give it like a 5-year or like a 10-year
check in every
lease, and then there's an option to renew, of course. And I say this, of course, and I say this because the fact of the matter is, as you guys know, this is the U.S. I'm not saying that this is typical of how relationships are everywhere in the world or marriages, but the divorce rate here is quite high. So it's about 50%, and that's because 50% of the time people find out that they didn't really want to do it, or at least didn't want to do it with that person that they ended up doing it with. So I think this just gives people the option to say, hey, you know what, like, after 10 years, if we see that you and I do not want to continue to pursue this, then at least we can end the relationship / marriage.
Let me ask this question
amicably in this manner.
What would be the point? So I understand the construct of like, okay, if we're gonna say divorces happen 50% of the time, let's write a contract. I don't see how the contract changes or solves anything. So why even go through that?
Right. So the contract kind of lets you know that, for one, you are not in this for the rest of your life. So you have an opportunity to get out of it without having to go through the perils. Divorce. Yes, but divorce is more so strenuous, more so, okay, you take this, I take that. It's more so like, it's more so daunting in a sense. Less so just more like, this is how it should be. This is what we should expect. Irrespective of what one of the party feels, if you do not want to continue, you do not have to continue. It gives people an out that is less so traumatizing in a sense, and more so just like, okay, we signed up for this.
Oh my God.
Now, guys,
jump in, Laura. I don't want
let me just say, if you guys are just listening, I literally had to like sit back to like take that in because I don't think I've ever heard anything like that, and I think it's a very interesting point. Actually, I would love to speak at length about it, but before we get to that point, I really just want us to answer her first part of the question, and then actually delve into this contractual piece a lot more. So, Korede, just to answer that first part of the question, like, are you at a point right now where you're looking for relationships, and also those relationships are hopefully going to turn into marriage?
Yes.
Depending on
both. Yeah, I would say I'm at a point where I'm ready to be in a relationship. And I've always approached looking at relationships for someone, like I mentioned earlier, someone who would be like a potential husband, like marriage material, I guess. I mean, I feel like you don't know immediately. You don't know for a certain amount of time.
You have to get to know them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that's how I approach like dating and going into relationships and things like that. So,
Dolapo?
Oh yeah. Sorry. To me, yes, definitely yes. Right. To me, I don't even see the point of being in a relationship if you're not trying to get married. Like, well, let's just keep it simple. But yes, to me, like people generally and myself get into a relationship so that eventually,
the intentions of that.
Yes, they can get married and all that kind of stuff. I know we've had episodes and people don't always want those things that I think everyone wants.
Yes.
But it's hard for me to even understand and completely be like, oh, people just like, I don't know. It's hard for me to understand. But yes, for me, yes.
Refer to season 2 for some of those episodes. But
I feel like that goes kind of to his point of terms of like having a contractual out. Like a lot of marriage is like, we don't want the forever commitment of it.
No, I understand that. But I think to me, my biggest issue with the contract premise is that I don't see how all the things that divorce break. Because to me, it seems like marriage is scary to you, divorce is scary to you, sign a contract, now it's no longer scary. But I'm like, all the things that come with the contract, like there are other ways of doing that. So prenup is a contract where whenever you get divorced, you know how things get split. Depending on how good your prenup is, obviously. So that part of it is not that, like, you have that already. You can have that if you want to. You have the option of getting divorced any year you feel like. So you, essentially, it's not supposed to be a yearly contract, but you have a daily contract pretty much already in place when you get married. And now I'm thinking if you have a family, why do you want to have the option of leaving your family every 5 years?
Like, Emeka, when you have this idea of a contract in mind, is it that you just are assuming that you will definitely not be with your future potential wife forever? Like, you're going into your marriage knowing you want it to end at some point, or are you just trying to leave the space open for it to end?
Absolutely. Just because I do not want anybody to be bound to me just because they've chosen to get married to me. Now, there are many people that are not happy in their marriages.
Of course.
And this is as simple as that. So this gives you an opportunity to get out of the relationship or the marriage without having to feel like it was a negative thing, like a bad thing.
And vice versa for you. But still, like, again, like I'm asking you, are you going into your future marriage expecting that it will definitely end at some point? Or are you going into it with the intentions of being with that person forever?
Right. So you want to be with that person forever. And then that kind of negates, well, then what's the point of the contract? But the point is that you have to understand that I feel like people change, right? People grow to become whoever they become, So the person that you met 15 years ago might not be the same person that you're with today. Yeah. And I know, yes, if you love and, into all that nostalgia, it's like, oh, you want to grow with him and learn to love him irrespective of that. Well, that's not practical. Let's be honest here. That's just not practical. Let's just be honest.
It's not practical.
Yeah, sometimes people grow to a point where you cannot just accept or agree.
That's definitely true.
Who they have become.
Yeah.
So how is the contract in addition? Like, I guess kind of going to Dolapo's point, like, why is the contract needed if you can also have like a prenup and then you have your marriage and then there's the option of divorce?
Yeah.
Like, is it just because I feel like the contract in terms of like, oh, we check in every 5 years, isn't that more just like a spoken?
Let me add this too. I also think, like, now I'm thinking about it that way. A contract actually ties you down longer. Because now, if I have a 5-year contract
and I want to get out 3 years,
in 2 years I'm ready. But now you're forcing me.
Exactly.
So I want to ask you, where did the thought of the contract come up? Like, because to me, I think it's a solution to a problem. So what's the problem that this is supposed to be a solution to?
Right. So you see, I love those counterpoints because they actually favor me. So, if you say if it's a 5-year contract, and 2 years into it, you're not feeling it. Well, then for those that love, the last 3 years you can commit to getting that spark once more as opposed to just tapping out immediately. Like, I can use the counterpoints too. But the fact of the matter is this, right? It is more so for people that are unfortunately stuck in relationships that they don't want to be in because they've married somebody that they actually genuinely do not love anymore. But because they have done it upon a premise of religion and so on and so forth, this separation will become abominable. It's now frowned upon. And this gives people an outlet to simply say, hey, this is what we did. I did not get into this marriage with the intention of being unhappy with you, but lo and behold, it turns out that I am. And so luckily, it allows for me to now leave the marriage without feeling this overwhelming guilt.
So my thing is, to just hop on what Dolapo and Korede have already said is the way marriage is constructed in the 21st century, it already kind of allows for you to leave the marriage at the first sight of unhappiness, right? And you can also implement it into a prenup setting. So like you can already have such contracts in place. But even if you were to add this new wave, more progressive stance, it's not going to negate all of the historical bases for it. So like I don't know how this changes.
To me, this is what I think. Let me help Emeka. I'm going to come to your side. No, I'm going to help you. This is what I think. I think that I support your contract if you market it to the right people. Everything's about marketing, right? So you have to market it to people that for some reason don't understand that they can just get a divorce. Like that's who this helps to me. That, like you kind of talked about it, like people that feel like religiously like them getting divorced is like an abomination. Because I think that we're all kind of working on the assumption that we all understand that like getting a divorce is not an abomination. So if you think that like to me that's what that helps. It's like like you don't it's not an abomination because it's not a divorce. But if you already understand divorce and you're like open to the possibility of it, then you don't need this contract. This contract only comes to people that like for some reason really don't understand or don't.
Whether it's like religious or cultural or whatever,
That's who this is for.
Basically, you want to be like, who's that king? King James, who like literally created a whole religion, aka the Protestant religion, so people can get divorced. Like you want to create this whole new wave.
I like the concept of like check-ins in marriages in terms of like not feeling like we're going in for forever, but you're like, you know, I mean, obviously you'd be checking in daily, but like I feel like each year you're kind of like, where are we standing? How are we doing? Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I guess I'm just a little confused on how the contract.
Can I just wait? Sorry, fact check. It's King Henry. Continue. Fact check. I think it's Henry.
So the reason is more so the premise that allows. Yes, everybody is aware that divorce is possible. I think anybody that gets married today is aware of such that it is in fact whenever you want you can walk up and leave. But the thing is more so now the reason that validates divorce, right? Let's say from the Christian religious standpoint, they tell you almost, I think, one or two things. Infidelity is one. To be honest, I think it's only infidelity, actually. And so a lot of people now live their lives based on that being the only grounds for them to be able to get a divorce. You see what I'm saying? And this is simply saying, well then, this allows for you, because it doesn't take anything else into consideration, actually, be it abuse, be it whatever.
Yeah.
So this is basically saying that in the event you are still committing to this, but this tells you that you do not have to do it for the rest of your life. You see what I'm saying? So like, you can actually genuinely just like
not renew the contract.
Exactly, simply because it is possible.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? But then not to.
That's my point.
It's yours is.
That's it.
I was gonna say it kind of goes to the
like my point to you is that that's the only population, like not that specific population, but only those sorts of populations is who it would apply to. Because if you already have, like, if you're not living by that one rule, then you don't need a contract to tell you can get divorced. In fact, a contract is keeping you from being divorced. So that's why I try to ask you, what problem are you trying to solve? Because if you're trying to solve the problem of people are getting divorced too quickly, then, I can see, like, if you force them 5 years, if they really want to get divorced, they won't renew. But if you're just saying you just want to have a contract just because...
That's also a good benefit to have.
So that's what I'm saying. You need a problem, and then this has to be a solution to it. Otherwise, it's just a contract.
And again, it's like, I feel like you're just... Because I don't think this could just be implemented by people themselves, because a lot of those... No, but like a lot of those situations where it's like communities where it's frowned upon, like... There probably are people within those communities that are like, I would like something like this involved, but the powers that be kind of force feed what's already there. So that's why I'm like, I don't even know how it could be implemented, because the people you're marketing to, I feel like it kind of.
I think you'd be surprised. I think you'd be surprised how many people that you wouldn't think fall under that category do.
Well, for instance, the Catholic Church as a whole kind of falls under it, right? Like, because they aren't allowed, they're not supposed to have divorces, period. So that's what I'm saying. But it's a religion that's been around for eons. So it's like going to be hard for you to just, hey, can I take a moment of your time to explain? And then they're like, what are you talking about? Like, bruh, step back.
It is hard because it does have to take a progressive mind for someone to approach it. It's just like, because I think the concept of marriage will just be like, well, this is forever. So then them being like, oh, well, you can do it in these like kind of like interval thing goes against their inherent belief of what they have.
So yes, they do have to be open-minded to it. I don't think that's
because the progressive people he would like this would sound very appealing to. They again don't need. A lot of them aren't even getting married because of this. Like they're choosing not to get married. Period. Like so that I can just walk away. So the people that would be very easy to take this type of thing on aren't. There's no need, honestly.
Let me ask this question. I think we need to wrap up soon. But Emeka, when you're in a stage you're about to get married, right? Because eventually, maybe I should ask this first. Do you eventually want to get married? Let me not assume yes.
I cannot answer that question.
No, not that. Are you going to? Do you?
I'm just playing with you. I'm just joking with you. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
It would be nice.
Okay, so let's just say you're gonna get married one day.
Sure.
Would you approach the person you're getting married to and say, "Let's sign this contract"? Are you gonna like? Would you implement that, or try to? You might not be successful, but would you try to? Because if you're not gonna try, like, what are you just talking
about? See, listen. You don't have to. You don't have to have an affection to find a way to invent
No.
So you will try to.
Exactly.
You got me.
Yeah,
Okay,
you don't have to. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you would try to implement.
No, he's saying that he might not try to. Because he said you don't have to have an affection to try to solve it. So you
don't have to, to not.
I thought he said affection. That's right. Okay.
So basically, just because I'm not doing it doesn't mean I.
Oh my god, this is so funny.
This is great.
No, come on. Are you serious?
That actually just killed me. Okay. No, but it's fine. Whatever.
Where can we find you on social media?
Like at GMax. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Alright, good.
Okay. I love that. Yeah. I was gonna say I like where that ended. I will say I get to officially end the conversation. We opened it up by asking who's single, who's not. For those of us who are still looking for love, how do you guys go about it? Like just end there and then maybe leave your @ names or whatever.
Okay.
So
where's the best place to find love?
Yeah, like how do you go about it? What do you do to find love? What is that whole vibe about?
Oh, cool, me. So I
yes, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, she looked directly at me. She said you. I've done online dating. I think I'm also trying to like expand my friend circle to like kind of like meet new people and just
like
kind of
real life dating.
Yeah, so like try to meet people in real life. Yeah, I guess that would be like the main places that I would say I meet people.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I don't really online date, so it's more so just running into people and meeting people.
Yeah.
Apparently in DC, you look for apartments and people.
Yeah, people find your LinkedIn.
Right. Yeah, Dolapo is all good. He's settled over there.
Yeah,
I agree with you guys too, though.
I do think that if you're trying to find a relationship, it's just a combination of everything.
It is.
Really, like I have never really done online dating, but I know that the world that we live in now, like, it's just the way that you have to try, depending on where you are in your life. But you just meet someone eventually.
I agree. I mean, I agree with what you guys all said. I do agree that online dating is kind of the wave right now, but I also agree with Emeka in the sense that it's not for me. I can't really get on that. But I definitely agree with Korede in the sense that the easiest way of finding people is probably trying to expand your circle.
I would say online, I hear a lot of people who tell me like online dating's not for them and they have like horror stories. I guess I've just been lucky because I've never really had like horror stories from online dating. And I've actually met like pretty like decent people, so I'm like, I feel like you should just give it
what I want to know more about it, so I feel like we should have a whole episode with you about online dating and whatnot, or just
what a good
talk
idea.
about because honestly, one person's in a relationship and the other is a novice and doesn't do it, so I think we need like an expert on the mic with us to talk about it. I
pretend that I'm an expert and
I
talk
say
to
you
you guys
come
in the
back.
future.
Okay.
Yeah, and we can have Emeka back for other contracts. Whatever else you talk about.
I'll be back for whatever you got.
Perfect.
What are your @ names so everybody knows?
You can find me at Moof Out the Way on Instagram. That's MOOF_OUT. DAWAY.
You forgot real quick in the middle of that?
Honestly, I'm private, so it doesn't even make a difference if you follow me or not.
But you can filter through if they,
Shoot your shot. Message me. I answer my DMs.
That's one thing I do. That counts as online dating. I've answered a few.
Instagram's the best online dating right now.
I think so.
Instagram is online dating.
Yeah,
it is.
It's unofficial, but it's the best.
I actually agree with that. Oh, yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at Black Nigerian. That's the only one I'm
active on.
Black Nigerian.
Black Nigerian, yeah.
Are there non-Black Nigerians?
Of course there are.
You're right.
Yeah, no, that's another conversation.
Anyway, I think that was a great episode, honestly. So we can leave it there.
Yes, I agree. Thanks for being on, guys.
All right, guys. Before we let you all leave, we're gonna give you some shout outs real quick. I think we're doing it in the realm of music and love and all that. So, like some of your favorite jams, albums, person.
Well, not some, just one. But yes,
whatever.
One jam or artist or album that you think is, you want to let the people out there know Valentine's Day if they're trying to get it on or whatever. Get it on.
What they should turn it on. What they should turn on. When you're trying to get it on, what you should turn on. That.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you start.
But I have the best song. Isn't the best last? So my song that everyone needs to listen to for Valentine's Day is Fireboy DML. It's called Need You. Need You, not your song. I'm not using your song.
Okay.
Yeah, like I do.
I was like, you trying to steal Mecca's song?
No, it's Need You. Need You is the song. Go and listen to that so you haven't already.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say mine's an oldie but a goodie. Best Part by Her featuring Daniel Caesar.
Okay. Yeah, I know that one.
Nice, right?
All right, so Dolapo stole Fireboy, but Fireboy himself said his best song was Like I Do on there, so you guys should probably check that out.
Okay.
But for me, it is likely, actually, I'll just do Like I Do by Fireboy. That's fine.
Yeah, just stick to what you want.
Stick to that.
Okay. For me, to switch it up, I'll go with an album. Snow Allegra has a really, really good
that
album that's all about the feels. I think it's called Those Feels Again.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's very it's just a sexy album. So you should listen to it, turn it on if you have a partner for Valentine's Day, and even if you don't.
Enjoy the music.
Yeah. That's all.
All right, perfect. Thanks for listening to the episode or watching if you're watching. Thanks for being on, guys.
Thanks.